Imagine for a moment that your mind is not entirely your own. It's pulled by every distraction, every insult, every desire, and every fear. A single comment ruins your day. A sudden failure makes you question your entire worth. You wake up with plans, but by the evening, you realize the world has pushed you in a direction you never chose. The Stoics saw this weakness as the greatest chain a human could wear, the slavery of an undisciplined mind. They believed that no external enemy is as dangerous as your inability to govern your own thoughts. Before you can master wealth, success, or even happiness, you must master yourself. This mastery doesn't demand a lifetime of retreat in the mountains. It can begin now, in small steps, in a short time, with rules so sharp and uncompromising that they cut through every excuse. The first brutal truth the Stoics held is that you cannot control the world, only your perception of it. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that people would lie, cheat, betray, and disappoint, and yet none of this could truly harm him unless he allowed his mind to surrender to anger or despair. The insult itself is powerless. Only your judgment gives it force. If you strip away that judgment, what remains is silence, neutrality, and peace. In less than a moment, you can turn an enemy's words into air, a failure into a lesson, and fear into courage. This is the first rule. Reclaim the power of your perception, because it is the foundation of every other strength. But the Stoics did not soften this truth with comforting words. They insisted that weakness of mind is self-inflicted. If you spend your hours consumed by jealousy, you have chosen to drink poison. If you let every fear control you, you have chosen to live as a prisoner in your own body. Brutality lies not in what others do to you, but in the way you betray yourself by refusing discipline. Seneca called it madness to complain about life's burdens while wasting your limited time. Time is the only true wealth, and every moment wasted on anger or self-pity is a moment stolen from your freedom. So the second rule is simple yet unforgiving. Treat every wasted thought as a theft against yourself. When you count your breaths as currency, you begin to live with urgency. A mind that wishes to master itself must also embrace discomfort. Epictetus, born a slave, knew this better than anyone. He taught that your body can be chained, but your mind remains free, if you train it. The training is not gentle. It demands that you endure insult without fury, hardship without collapse, and temptation without surrender. Discomfort is not the enemy. It is the fire that forges steel. If you can endure pain for a minute, you gain an eternity of strength. That is why the Stoics deliberately practiced voluntary hardship, eating less, sleeping on the floor, or walking in the cold, so that when true hardship arrived, it found them already prepared. This is the third rule. Invite discomfort before life forces it on you, and you will become untouchable. Mastering your mind is not a poetic idea, it is war. Every thought is a soldier, either fighting for your freedom or against it. The Stoics knew that the undisciplined mind is a battlefield, lost before the first strike. By learning to govern perception, guard time, and embrace hardship, you begin the campaign of mastery. It does not take years to feel its power, it takes minutes of ruthless clarity. In the space of 25 minutes, you can practice these first rules. Remind yourself what you control, cut off the waste of thoughts, and welcome a little voluntary struggle. This is how the mind begins to transform, not slowly, but immediately, with brutal honesty and unwavering discipline. The next step in mastering your mind is to confront the illusions that weaken it. The Stoics taught that much of human suffering is not born from reality, but from the stories we invent about reality. We exaggerate, we imagine, we predict disasters that have not yet arrived. Epictetus warned against this disease of the mind. If you are struck once by misfortune and 100 times by your own fearful imagination, you have made yourself suffer 100-fold more than life required. The fourth brutal rule is therefore this: separate fact from fiction in your mind. When fear rises, ask yourself, is this happening now, or is this just my imagination? If it is not happening now, then it is nothing. Cut away the false stories and half of your pain will disappear in an instant. But clarity without discipline is useless. A sharpened blade does nothing if it never leaves its sheath. That is why the Stoics demanded action. Don't explain your philosophy, Epictetus said. Embody it. You may spend hours reading wisdom, but if you cannot control your anger in a moment of insult, your knowledge is ash in the wind. The fifth rule is merciless. Judge yourself by your actions, not your intentions. Intention is easy. Execution is rare. Every day you must measure your worth by what you did, not what you planned. The world is full of thinkers who never became doers and their minds rot in regret. A Stoic mind is a mind that acts even in small ways every single day. Another brutal lesson lies in the acceptance of death. Seneca called life alone not a gift. Every day you live is a day taken from the total you cannot know. To fear death is foolish, for it is the only certainty life grants. The wise man does not waste time begging for more days he prepares to use the days he has. This is the sixth rule: meditate on death daily. Not to become morbid, but to become urgent. When you remember that today could be the last time you walk outside, speak to a friend, or even breathe, you stop living like a sleepwalker. You stop postponing your discipline, your gratitude, your growth. In the presence of death, life sharpens. When you embrace mortality, you master time itself. The Stoics also warned against attachment to things outside our control. Wealth, status, praise, even love, none of these are truly ours. They belong to fate, to chance, to the shifting winds of fortune. To cling to them is to cling to smoke, and when the smoke vanishes, you choke. Marcus Aurelius ruled the greatest empire of his time, yet wrote to himself that even the throne was temporary. He could be stripped of it, betrayed, or struck down at any moment. The seventh rule is harsh but liberating. Hold everything with an open hand. Enjoy it while it is here, but never depend on it for your peace. Your mind is free only when it stands apart from possessions, reputation, and even relationships. If they remain, you are grateful. If they vanish, you remain unbroken. At this stage, the battlefield of the mind becomes clearer. You cut illusions, force action, face death, and loosen attachment. These rules are not gentle comforts. They are hammers striking the chains that bind you. They demand courage, because to live by them is to live without excuses. The world will still insult you, fate will still test you, death will still approach, but you will not be the same. Your mind, once tossed like a ship in storms, now begins to steady like an anchored vessel. The chaos outside no longer controls the order within, and that is the beginning of true mastery. The last stage of mastery is the most difficult, because it requires the destruction of the soft illusions we cling to. We want life to be fair, but the Stoics declared it never will be. We want people to always honor their word, but they rarely do. We want comfort, recognition, certainty, but life offers hardship, betrayal, and endless change. The weak mind collapses under this truth. The strong mind embraces it. The eighth brutal rule is therefore this: expect nothing, accept everything. Marcus Aurelius began his mornings by reminding himself that he would meet the selfish, the ignorant, and the arrogant before the day was done. Yet he did not curse them, for he knew they were simply acting according to their nature. To expect perfection from the world is to demand the impossible. To accept reality as it is, that is freedom. When you stop fighting what you cannot change, you save your strength for the battles you can win. But mastery of the mind is not complete until you learn to command yourself in the smallest details. The Stoics believed that self-rule is the highest form of empire. A man who cannot control his tongue is weaker than one who cannot control an army. A woman who cannot master her impulses is already enslaved, no matter how rich or powerful she appears. This is the ninth and final rule: be ruthless with yourself. Do not allow excuses, do not tolerate laziness, do not surrender to desires that weaken you. If your mind wanders, bring it back. If your body resists discipline, train it harder. You are both the commander and the soldier. If you fail, it is because you disobeyed yourself. Brutal self-command is the crown of Stoic strength. When these rules are practiced together, the transformation is immediate. You are no longer a victim of every emotion or circumstance. Insults lose their sting, fear loses its grip, loss loses its devastation. You walk through life as if armored, not because the world has grown easier, but because you have grown harder. 25 minutes of ruthless practice each day, 25 minutes of sharpening perception, rejecting wasted thought, embracing hardship, acting with discipline, remembering death, loosening attachments, accepting reality, and commanding yourself. This is enough to change the direction of your mind. The Stoics never promised comfort. They promised strength. They never promised happiness. They promised resilience. And if you seek a life that is unbreakable, if you want to master not the world but yourself, then these 9 brutal rules are your weapon. Use them daily, and the battlefield of the mind will no longer terrify you. You will not just survive, you will reign over yourself. And that is the only true victory. The truth is this: most people will read or hear these rules and nod in agreement, but then return to the same habits, the same excuses, the same chains. They will spend years seeking comfort and still remain restless. They will beg for more time yet waste every hour given. But the Stoics would call that the greatest tragedy, to know the path to freedom and still choose slavery. Knowledge without action is rot. Philosophy without practice is vanity. If you want mastery, you must live it, not admire it from a distance. These rules are not for the faint of heart. They demand you crush your excuses, cut through illusions, face death, detach from false securities, and discipline yourself with a soldier's resolve. They are not kind, but they are honest, and honesty is the sharpest medicine for a weak mind. Apply them for 25 minutes a day, and you will begin to notice the shift. A calmness when others panic, a discipline when others indulge, a strength when others break. That calmness, that discipline, that strength, that is the essence of Stoicism. The world will not slow down for you. Time will not pause. Fortune will not bend to your will. But you can bend yourself. You can sharpen your mind into a weapon no hardship can dull. And when you do, you will discover the rarest form of power, the power of self-mastery. In the end, you don't need to conquer nations, riches, or fame. You need only to conquer yourself. For the one who rules his own mind rules everything.